All right, thank you guys for joining us. My name is Desiree Blanchard, and I'm the Communications and Community Engagement Manager of the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments, also known as NVCOG. And today we're going to be talking about updates to our Title VI Non-Discrimination Plan. I do ask that if you're participating virtually, you keep your mics muted during the presentation. And if you have any questions, we will be answering and addressing them at the end of the presentation, or you can write them in the chat function, chat box. So to begin, let's get to know our organizations that are involved in Title VI compliance. So we're starting at the top with the Federal Transit Administration, known as FTA, and they're an agency within the United States Department of Transportation who support or provides financial and technical assistance to local public transportation systems. Then we have NVCOG, Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments. We're the regional planning organization for the 19 municipalities located in West Central Connecticut. We coordinate planning activities and provide technical assistance and support services to the region's policy and decision-making chief elected officials. We also function as the metropolitan planning organization for 15 of the 19 aforementioned communities. Then we have Valley Transit District, who is a public transportation system for the southern Naugatuck Valley. So they contain 4 communities, including Ansonia, Derby, Seymour, and Shelton. How are they related? So NVCOG and Valley Transit District maintain a memorandum of understanding that provides that will cooperatively provide planning and transit services to those 4 communities listed. And as a recipient of federal assistance from FTA and also Federal Highway Administration, we report back to FTA on our Title VI compliance. So we're talking about Title VI. What is Title VI? So Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1965, or 1964, excuse me, provides that no person in the United States shall, on the grounds of race, color, national origin, be excluded from participation and or denied the benefits of any, federally funded program or activity. So again, as recipients of federal assistance from FTA, NVCOG and BTD must maintain a Title VI program to demonstrate how we comply with transit-related activities set by Title VI by DOT's regulations. So we're required to update our Title VI program or plan every 3 years to renew components of that plan that include our demographic profile, our public participation plan, and our language assistance plan, which I'll further go through later in the presentation. The Title VI update is to our plan that was done in 2016, which was done by, at the time, VCOG and Valley Transit District and endorsed by our board. And these updates focus on not only the 19 communities for the NVCOG region, but also focuses in a little bit on those 4 communities of the BTD service region, or service area, excuse me. So we start off with our demographic profile, and that contains maps and charts pertaining to the service areas listed. And for the demographic profiles, we look at our American Community Survey data from the 2016 to 2020 5-year estimates. The goal, there are 3 goals to the demographic profile, and that is 1, to discern which minority and language populations exist in the area, the service area, that may be transit dependent, to identify where the limited English proficient populations exist, and those are individuals who read, write, and speak English less than well. And to take a look at our overall planning and services to make sure that we're serving our populations accurately. We start by looking at some of those maps and charts. We're looking at our map of the region overall. We can look at the minority populations. So we see that the minority population is pretty much spread out, but we're really seeing a concentration in those urban cities, more so Waterbury, Bristol, down here, Derby and Ansonia. We found that 61.7% of Waterbury's population is minority and 27.1% of Bristol's population is minority. We take a look at our chart over here that distinguishes languages. We're looking at the population of over 5 years old for these are 19 communities. You're looking at who speaks English less than well. That's going to be your limited English proficient population. And again, we're seeing some similarities. We're seeing that in those communities. Ansonia, Derby, 6.5%, Waterbury, 11.3%, Bristol, up here, 5.7%. We're seeing that those, again, more urbanized communities are having a higher percentage of limited English proficient populations. Taking a look specifically at the BCG service area. So again, you're seeing Northern Ansonia, Derby, they have that greater than 50%. We're looking at census tracts and minority population. Overall, Ansonia has 38.3% minority population, and Derby has 32.7% minority population. And then this chart is a little looking again at language, but a little bit more specific. So we're looking at Spanish, the language categorization of other Indo-European languages, Asian Pacific Island languages, and other. And from looking at this information, we were able to determine that there's a sizable Spanish limited English proficient population that exists, not only in just this BCD service area, but also in the region as a whole. So again, looking at that Spanish language population, so we have a map that'll be on your left, my right, that shows Spanish overall spoken throughout the region. So you see the greater than 10% in those urban communities, but pretty much spread out. Looking at just the population that speaks English less than well, we see heavy concentrations in Waterbury and Central Waterbury, Bristol, more so Northern Ansonia, but again, same community. And then a little bit more focused then, heavy concentration of Spanish speaking in Ansonia and Derby, some in Shelton. And then when you're looking just at the limited English proficient population, Northern Ansonia, populations of Derby, and populations of Seymour. So amongst our Title VI demographics that we look at being the minority and the language components, we also look at other transportation equity demographics, and that's just going to paint a better picture for us about the communities that we serve and how to best serve them. So we look at households with no vehicle access, and you see the concentrations in Waterbury, same communities again, we're seeing a lot of intersectionality. You see some heavy concentration, less so heavy, but concentrated in Southbury, Lower Cheshire. Then you look over here on the commuters using public transit. So really no surprise if you look, we have fixed bus service routes, and you're seeing concentration around where those routes exist. And then this is the BCD service area. So we're seeing, Northern Seymour, parts of Ansonia, Derby, Census Tract and Shelton. Those are the more focused, concentrated, seeing more than, and that gap between 20 to 40% who are without vehicle access. And then again, where you see the fixed bus service routes, you're seeing more concentration of those who use public transit. So one of the other demographics that we looked at is poverty, and again, no surprise, seeing the concentrations in those aforementioned areas, those census tracts. And so the overall key takeaways, demographic takeaways, is that there is a minority population that exists, including Spanish limited English proficient individuals concentrated in Derby and Ansonia, that is likely to be more transit dependent and have below median household incomes. And then similar for the region as a whole, there's a minority population heavily concentrated, including Spanish limited English proficient individuals concentrated in the urbanized cities of Waterbury and Bristol that are more likely to be transit dependent and below medium household income. The next part of the plan that has been updated that we're taking a look at is our public participation plan. So amongst the things that have been updated is that we identified we want to continue with a multi-method approach to outreach and involvement. And amongst that kind of leads into the next bullet, which is that we modernize our technology capabilities for virtual engagement opportunities. Coming out of COVID, we had to adjust a little bit about how we were engaging and meeting people. And so that is one of the things that we looked at. Again, just that multi-method approach that we will continue to use different platforms to notify individuals that will host our meetings in accessible locations, various times, things like that. We also maintain, NVCOG specifically maintains a public outreach policy that provides a greater framework about how we allow for public participation. So the next component that was updated is our language assistance plan. The language assistance plan outlines how we ensure reasonable steps taken to, or how we outline reasonable steps taken to ensure meaningful access to limited English proficient individuals. To determine reasonable language assistance and what is appropriate, we use an assessment known as the 4-factor analysis. So that looks at one, the number of limited English proficient persons who are likely to encounter our services. 2, the frequency of which those individuals encounter the service. 3, the importance of the services to LEP persons. And 4, what resources, little tongue tied, are available to provide LEP assistance. So, and we kind of went through this process to this assessment. Through factor 1, we found, referring back to the demographic information, that a sizable Spanish-speaking LEP population needs the safe harbor provision. The safe harbor provision stipulates that a grantee is in compliance if each eligible LEP language group has written translation of vital documents, and an eligible LEP group constitutes 5% or 1,000 persons, whichever is less, of the total population. We also found that the language group Other Indo-European almost met that safe harbor threshold, but not exactly. We reviewed the data information on a municipal level, so looking at our 19 communities, looking at Valley Transit District 4 communities, and they didn't on a municipal level meet that threshold, but as an additive measure, we reached out to local service organizations, and they all agreed basically that there wasn't any significant other language group that they're encountering more than Spanish. Factor 2, the frequency of which LEP populations contact with transit services or our services. So both organizations, NVCOG and Valley Transit District, have had infrequent or very limited contact with LEP individuals because of the particular nature of our services. But to that point, we still have a likelihood of encountering LEP persons, and so we're mindful and are equipped to do so. Factor 3, the importance of our services. So the transportation planning and investment decisions carried out by NVCOG they impact the mobility and access to all of our communities, not just our LEP populations. And then LEP populations, which are transit dependent, rely upon the paratransit services that VTD provides. As for resources available for language assistance, we found that financial resources for language assistance are limited, and to account for that, both VTD and NVCOG maintain Spanish-speaking staff to assist with controlling the cost of that, imbalance of current language assistance. Those staff members are on board to assist with translation of both verbally and of documents. We also maintain relationships with partner organizations who are there to aid with ad hoc translation. So similar to our public participation plan, we decided that we want to maintain this multi-method approach to language assistance. Here are some of the bullets that outline some of the things that we want to continue to do, some of the practices we want to continue to do, but really what is common practice is that we want to continue to review the data as it's made available to us to ensure that we know who our limited English proficient populations are and where they exist. We will continue to provide written and verbal translations as requested to the community. All of our vital documents for both organizations will be translated into Spanish, and we will continue to notify the public of language assistance that's available, and that's going to be on our public notices that'll be found on our agendas, our social media, our flyers, etc. So this is the schedule that will be followed for our Title VI update. May 11th, we published the draft, and that's available on the NVCOG website, nvcogct.gov, nvcogct.gov. It's also available at the VTD website. And so on May 11th, also a public comment period began. That is 30 days open. So if someone wants to review those documents, they can go on the website and find them. They're also located at our offices, and they can send, my contact information will be at the end of the presentation. They can send me an email, give me a call, and leave their comments with me. On May 25th, which is today, is our first public meeting located here in Waterbury City Hall. Tomorrow, our second public meeting will be held at the Valley Transit District headquarters, 41 Main Street in Derby. That's going to be from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. June 10th will be the NVCOG board meeting. And so upon no comments or incorporating the comments that we do receive for the update, we will present that to the board, and the board will hopefully endorse the updates. June 27th, we will submit to FTA, Federal Transit Administration, the final copy. And in late autumn of 2022, we hope to receive a decision from FTA if they accept our update. So again, my name is Desiree Blanchard, Communications and Community Engagement Manager for NVCOG. I can be contacted at the information that's on the presentation, and I'm definitely happy to take any questions or comments at this time. And those who are online, you can use the hand raise function, or you can unmute yourselves if you have any questions. Okay. Hearing none, but I will stick around, and if anyone has questions, I'm available.